As it currently stands, the Arlington town election on April 10th will not have the same vote-by-mail options as the 2020 election. The legislation was drafted at the beginning of the pandemic and is set to expire on March 31st. With COVID-19 case numbers still worrisome, there are good reasons to preserve the vote-by-mail option for all. Representative Sean GARBALLEY is currently working to extend the rules from 2020.
The goal is to try to pass intermittent legislation before we do the larger bill to make it permanent that would cover all municipal elections between now and the end of June.
His ultimate goal is to make mail-in voting in the Commonwealth a permanent fixture. But for April, it's all about the timing.
And I'm working on that legislation, but it needs to get to the Joint Committee on Election Laws. They can have a hearing on it, and we can try to get it for a vote ASAP.
Even if it were to get through the State House in time, GARBALLEY notes concerns from Arlington's town clerk, Julie Brazil.
The concern is that there's not enough time already for them to be able to depend on the mail service to send a voter an application, to send a ballot, and to get it back before the April 10th election. So in reality, for Arlington, what we're trying to get passed is the no excuse absentee waiver.
PSILASKis from MASSVOTE, a nonpartisan voting advocacy group, outlines the hurdles that exist for absentee voting.
If you want to vote absentee, you have to meet one of three criteria. You either have to be out of town on election day, physically disabled, or have a religious reason. And that's within the state constitution. So you can't, unfortunately, just pass a law to change that.
Until COVID-19, this wasn't a major issue on many people's minds. But now absentee voting is recognized as a huge asset for increasing voter turnout.
So moving forward, yes, we want to definitely keep something like vote by mail because it worked.
Beyond increasing turnout, it also makes people feel safer in these times. Arlington resident Ann Goodwin explains.
I think mail-in voting is a really important option, particularly since the pandemic is continuing. And I think in general, we should make voting as easy and accessible to everybody as possible.
GARBALLEY says he is working hard to give people an option they feel safe with.
So right now, it's really important for me is to try to pass a shorter, a stopgap measure to allow the extension of the program that we used during the presidential election till at least the end of June, so that Arlington and all the other municipal elections that are being held between now and the end of June can go forward with safety.
If the legislation isn't extended, GARBALLEY remains confident in the safety of Arlington polling locations.
In the law, we put very strict requirements on voting in person to make sure social distancing requirements are upheld from 6 feet, to make sure there are hand sanitizing stations at every polling location.
PSILASKis reminds us of the importance of local elections.
Who's elected at the local level will impact pretty much everybody on a daily basis. It impacts the things you don't think about. It impacts traffic patterns. It impacts trash collection. It impacts education.
And GARBALLEY doubles down on this idea.
It's really critical to have your voice heard by voting in all elections, but especially local elections, because the decisions made by many of our volunteers and elected boards really do impact you as an individual here in Arlington, almost more than what happens at the federal level.
GOODWIN always votes in local elections and emphasizes their importance.
It's a place where my voice can have a bigger impact, and these decisions that we make on the local level really ripple out to the larger level.
The Arlington town election will take place on April 10th. For ACMi News, I'm Ella Ward.